But anyway, all right. So tell me where you where in the Philippines were you born?
Okay, Panay Island. That's supposed to be the birthplace of Philippine Kali, Filipino martial art, otherwise known as Eskrima or Anes or Estocada or Baston in that particular island. It's in the central western, what they call the western Visayas part of the southern Philippines.
Hmm.
And I've been in Filipino martial art 48 years.
Okay, well, let's see. What did were you born in a hospital or born in your house?
In the hospital.
Hospital. And you have are you older?
There's only one sister, and the other, I'm the older one.
She's older.
Me.
You're older. How much older than her are you? A couple years.
Many years.
Many years. Now, what did your father do?
He was a handyman. He worked in the machine shop. He belonged to a farming family, farmer family. But many of his relatives are also escrimadores.
So when you were young, you saw people doing the Kali all the time?
Oh yes, from my grandmother's side also. Some old people would come to the house and they'd play with me, give me some small sticks. Also, my father bring me to the relatives there who was escrimador too. This was in the late 50s. Or early 50s. And late 50s, early 50s, that's when I started.
So how old were you?
I was a young pup.
Now, did your parents put you in the Kali, or did you just want to do it?
No, I just gravitated into it. I just love it from the start.
And who was your first instructor?
First instructor?
When you were a little kid?
Well, relatives of my grandmother.
Okay.
And my father. I forgot the name now. But I remember this old guy. He was already like, 70? He would bounce off his knee. Do all kinds of... he was an escrimador. He would do all this calisthenics and all this stretching, and he said he got it all from Kali, from Eskrima. And so when I was a kid, they would bring me into the barrios during fiesta time. There would be bouts among escrimadores there, and the prize money is sometimes some goats or some water buffalo. And you see a lot of dumog too.
Now, how did they win the fights?
Oh, usually these are controlled fights. So either they lose their stick, or or they get thrown on the ground, and there's a referee. But sometimes they don't agree, so that's when it starts to escalate.
Now, they wear pads or just...
No pads,
no pads.
No pads allowed.
And they use rattan?
They use rattan. Then when it escalates, then they turn to more heavier sticks, and then they really go for it. And that's when it becomes a duel, a rito. From a play demonstration to a rito.
Rito?
Yeah, the duel.
What does that mean?
Dueling.
Okay.
Challenge, it becomes a challenge match.
So, how old were you when you had the first non-relative instructor? You said they were all relatives of yours. When was your first instructor that you actually sought out? And
I don't know, maybe 10, 11.
And do you know who that was?
Oh.
No?
We just call him Rojo.
Rojo.
That's what they call him. And we were doing actual blades, knife, disarming, real knife. We'll start from the stick, and then we graduated to that.
And do you know what specific style of Kali it was?
I found out later that he studied from my grandmaster.
Ah,
Yeah, but he didn't tell me at first. He was the first guy, and then followed by Grandmaster Lopez.
and how old were you when you met Grandmaster Lopez?
Oh, I was in college, I think. Was that?
So like a teenager? Late
Yeah, I
teens?
was a teenager. All these years were all teenagers. This was 50s, 60s.
Okay.
This was 50s, 60s, late 60s. This was the time when karate was first introduced in the Philippines. And then I learned Largamano. And then I got introduced to Grandmaster Austin, Ojales.
Okay, well, go back to Lopez. So,
Lopez was he was a teacher already, a master of Eskrima.
was he old or young?
He's an old guy.
Old guy.
And,
What do you think was his outstanding ability?
well, when he was younger, he was a boxer, and he was already expert, the salon long-range fighter,
Mm-hmm.
and until he met Mang Osting, and then he changed his style.
Okay, so how long did you study with him for? How many years?
My God, from I don't know, from the 60s to 80s, I think.
Okay, so you had him through the entire time. You studied with him through the whole time.
Yeah.
Okay, so who did you meet after you were with him? Who did
No,
you
he
start?
introduced me to Inohalis, to Mang Osting, and then I studied with Mang Osting until I left for North America. So
So those were your two main instructors.
Yeah. No, I have many.
Okay, well,
instructors.
let's go through some of those and when you met them.
Yeah, then I had Grandmaster Talion, who is also the nephew of the teacher of Inohalis. So actually, Talion was the nephew, and Mang Usting was the servant of Grandmaster Agi. Because he was a poor guy, he worked as a servant, he cannot pay for the lessons. But he learned one style of the system, and the other grandmaster learned Talion another aspect of the system. So, and he called his style dos y metodos, but he had some secret styles in there that he taught me later on. And the way he teaches that he uses the daga on the left hand right away. And this is the old system, they use the daga right away on the left hand. And he's very precise, the most precise of all my teachers in terms of angulation, economy of motion, very precise.
And when did you study with him? Was that when you were
was
younger or
also-
older?
Yeah, young, when I was young. It's a few, 1 year, 2 years maybe after Lopez.
After you
2
started
years
with
after,
Lopez.
yeah. Because they all belong to the same group. They are all friends. They pass me from one another. Then my neighbor, Grandmaster and Lopez was, he owned an hacienda, sugar plantation in Negros, but they went because he was a gambler and all that, so they lost the property down the years, and he became a full-time teacher of Eskrima. He was sent to study medicine in Manila, but he ended up studying there, boxing in Eskrima and that. So he became a full-fledged teacher of Eskrima, and before Second World War, they had a club in my city. They had a Eskrima school, and the head teacher was Mang Usting. And then another guy got involved with them, Grandmaster Haliki, who was also another Eskrima teacher. And then there's another guy named Carlos, and many other guys. And the style that they do is Trancada Alabon.
So is that the first place you were introduced to that? When did you start doing the Trancada Alabon?
It was just right after Hollis, after Lopez.
So Lopez was part of it or wasn't part of it?
Lopez became a student of Mangosting, of Trancada Alabon.
Okay.
So he became a follower, but you remember these were already masters of Eskrima.
Right.
And same with Haliki. And then Talion was independent by himself, because he's like the Kali brother of... but Mangosting was the PhD. He's like the super genius of the group, because most of the innovations he did. And his grappling technique is fantastic. His domog is super.
Now, I've heard you talk before about Trancada. Now, is Trancada itself a separate art and they're just combined, or?
No, the word Trancada means to pin, to trap, to pin, to trap, to lock, to... So the word Trancada is not a system.
Okay, so Trancada Alabon is the system in itself. You can't have just a Trancada system.
No. You have to have the Alabon.
Okay, and which?
So that's what the style is. It's close range fighting style.
And what does Alabon mean?
Alabon is the use of the end of the stick, the butt side.
And also, doesn't it mean elbows or?
Oh yeah, because it has a anatomical counterpart. Trancada Alabon, it's an arm, has a lot of hand hitting, elbow, head butt, shoulder butt, hips, knee, lots of dumo, grappling, counter grappling, upright squatting, ground grappling. It's one of the most complete system I've ever seen.
Who was the first person to start calling this system Trancada Alabon?
I heard it first from those guys.
Do you know who was the first scrimador that actually started calling it what he was teaching? Trancada?
Lopez, Hollis, Haliki, those guys.
So they are the ones that formed the term Trancada Alabon.
Yeah, but Talion he called his system 12 métodos, the 12 methods. But actually, it's the other side of the Trancada Alabon style. And he had he's very secretive, that guy. So he would teach you only the secret part after many years. So I had to stay. Even Hollis would not teach you all of it. So every 5 years there's a big celebration, because he'll introduce some fantastic technique every 5 years. So I had to go from one of his students to the other grandmasters to know to round off the whole system. There's Mang Ramon also, one of his top guys, who was also a Largamano master. And all of them tried conclusions with Mang Sting. Nobody could beat him. So they all followed him. He destroyed the long-range systems in the place.
Now, if Trancada is primarily close range, do they have longer range techniques?
Yes, of course.
And how does that fit in with the shorter range? Is it done the same way? And just
the longer range is more tighter than the Salon, which is one of the styles I studied also. The Salon style. This is the most common style in southern Philippines, in the Visayas region, the western region. It is mainly long range, and a lot of it is use of the blade, bolo. But many of the salon are there's a lot of wind up. Whereas the Trancada Alabon long range is tighter angulation. And there's no wind up. A lot of it is non-telegraphic. Yeah. So you start long range, to go to the medium, then go to the close range.